Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and today, almost seemingly out of nowhere, we really didn't get much of a heads up on this. We got the release of the new Destiny 2 ViDoc, Light in the Darkness. We're only a few weeks away from the official release of Destiny 2's next expansion, the Witch Queen, and today, Bungie put out a massive 13-minute video basically showcasing a lot of the things we're going to be getting into when that expansion goes live. And over the course of this video, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest bits of news that dropped in the ViDoc earlier today. Now, if you haven't seen the ViDoc itself, of course, we're going to be using clips from that here in this video, but I would definitely recommend that you go and watch it in its entirety. The ViDoc itself is very heavily focused on story, so there are going to be some spoilery bits in there. But we do get some awesome looks at incoming weapons, at changes to certain subclasses. We're going to see the expansion of Void 3.0 and even more. And that's the kind of stuff I want to cover in this breakdown video. So let's go ahead and dive on into it. Now, like I said before, the trailer starts out very narrative heavy. This ViDoc was mostly focused on the story, the unveiling narrative that's going on in the Witch Queen. We know Savathun has gotten her hands on the light, still don't know exactly how she gets her hands on the light. It looks like they're going to wait until the week before this comes out to put that quest live. But of course, the expansion is all about her wielding the light and the repercussions that's going to have on us as Guardians. We get some awesome looks at the incoming world space of Savathun's throne world, which is likely where we're going to be spending a lot of our time in the Witch Queen. We also get some awesome clips for the lore nerds out there of what I'm pretty sure is the Fundament, which is, of course, the original homeworld of the Hive, you know, when they were really just space shrimp before they crawled out of the oceans. But again, we get some great shots of the overall throne world we'll be exploring and a lot of the mysteries that are going to be tied therein. Bungie promised that much like the Dreadnought of old back in Destiny 1, this area is going to be chock full of mysteries, secrets, and treasures for us to uncover. In particular, there's a section of the ViDoc where they're talking about some mechanics that might pop up in raids and in dungeons where you're going to have to kind of scry the proper way forward through certain areas. And then we see a symbol, a couple of symbols that should be familiar to anybody who's played through Destiny 2's Hive-themed areas. And it looks like they may be incorporating some of those mechanics not just into the in-game content, but into the story itself. It's definitely an interesting way to move forward. But speaking of story changes, we get a quick look at the incoming difficulty modes that are going to be added to story missions. In a quick clip, we get to see that you have classic campaigns, which is going to be the classic basic difficulty that story missions will have, and then legendary difficulty, where you'll face harder missions and stronger combatants. It's recommended for experienced players with a broad arsenal to draw upon, which, given some of the previous difficulty spikes in harder game modes, probably going to be necessary to complete legendary content. And they give you a quick clip showing that completing legendary content is going to result in you getting more rewards at the end of these activities. Now, in addition to all of this, we also learned that the next incoming seasonal content, Season of the Risen, is going to be starting at the exact same time as the Witch Queen. Remember, Witch Queen is going to have its own base set of story and exotic missions and all that kind of stuff. And then there's usually seasonal content that starts a couple of weeks afterwards. Not this time. Season of the Risen is going to be going live the exact same day as the Witch Queen. And this season's story is going to be running simultaneously with the narrative of Witch Queen. It's basically going to be about defending the Earth from the incoming Hive Guardians. And as a part of this season, those of you who thought we might be seeing more of Empress Keitel will be happily surprised. She's going to be taking a central role in the narrative. It's actually pretty cool. We're going to be using some of the same Cabal technology that they used at the start of Destiny 2 to shut off our light, to imprison the Traveler, in order to shut off the light abilities of the Hive. Kind of a great callback to where this all began in Destiny 2. And here in this section of the ViDoc, we get a bunch of clips of what the seasonal content's going to look like. Of course, it's going to be complete with its own new incoming 6-man activity. It looks like we might have some new battlegrounds tied into this as well. And as a part of the Season of the Risen, we're also going to be getting access to a suite of new weapons that are more Cabal themed with their own origin trait titled Land Tank, where using Cabal guns that carry it will boost your damage resistance and resilience with every kill you rack with them. Very interesting stuff. After that, we get a much more in-depth look at the incoming Hive Guardians, where it makes it seem like these Hive Guardians, at least some of the specific ones like knights and wizards and whatnot, are going to be more like boss characters than regular enemies that you'll be facing all the time. In particular, we get to see some Sentinel Titan knights, a Stormcaller wizard, and even a blade barraging acolyte. And there's an interesting concept here where you guys have all seen the clip where after you take down the Hive Guardians, you grab their ghost and you crush it. Well, Bungie dropped a little bit of a note here saying that sometimes if you don't go and do that, if you don't go and take out that ghost, you're going to have to start that fight over again because, of course, these Hive Guardians can resurrect just like regular Guardians can using the light. Which, narratively speaking, makes perfect sense, but it's just kind of this awesome sort of way to tie it into the gameplay itself. After that, the ViDoc focuses a lot on incoming weapons, which is what I know a lot of you guys care about more than anything else. They start things off with the new exotic Glaze. Of course, we've talked about this in previous videos. We're going to have exotic Glaze for each of the main classes, Titan, Warlock, and Hunter. And all those Glaves are going to have specific abilities tied to them. We've learned that the Titan Glaive is going to be able to basically create bubble shields almost on demand. The Warlock Glaive is going to be able to summon a healing rift with a healing turret, while the Hunter Glaive shoots a Trinity Ghoul-like arc stream forward that can chain between enemies. But beyond forging your Glaive, there will be many more weapons that you're going to be able to make using the new zone, the Enclave. This is where you're going to be doing all of the weapon crafting and reshaping that you'll do in Witch Queen. Again, we covered some of the specific details about weapon forging in a previous video last week. I'll have a link to that down in the description box below if you want to go and check it out. But essentially, you're going to have a list of weapon blueprints that you'll be able to earn by playing the game. Once you've earned a weapon's blueprint, you can head to the Enclave, and if you've got enough of the crafting materials that you'll get from also playing, normal activities in the game, you can craft a specific weapon with specific perks and specific traits. The ViDoc here shows a bit more of what these screens are going to be looking like. You can come here, you see with the Enigma Glaive, you're able to choose between a bunch of different magazine perks, like Extended Mag or Fast Mag. And it looks like the way you unlock them is with something called Neutral Element, which I'm sure is only going to be one of the many crafting materials that are going to be required to be farmed up before you can start weapon crafting. This is one of the things I'm most excited for in the Witch Queen. The ability to create, curate, and reshape your own weapons is something that I have loved in other games for a long time, and I have desperately wanted in Destiny. Cannot wait to get my hands on it. After that, we get another look at some of the incoming exotics that are going to be a part of the Witch Queen release. And interestingly enough, we actually get to see it in relation to the Enclave and weapon forging. In this clip here, we see a Guardian forging the Osteostriga itself. And it gives us a great look at what's going to be required to form some exotic weapons. You're going to need some Resonant Alloy, Glimmer, Neutral Element, Ascended Alloy, which I guess is required for exotics, and Ruinous Elements. So essentially, we're going to be forging a new weapon of sorrow. And now the Osteostriga's got a very interesting effect. It's very much like the Thorn. It's going to shoot poison shots that will sort of spawn these pods that will track to enemies, attach to them, and then create a poison burst, destroying everything around them. Then we get to see more of the incoming Grand Overture, which is a slug launcher that charges full auto missiles. It's called a slug launcher. It's basically a machine gun that is shooting missiles out of it. With this, you can launch a barrage of up to 20 missiles in a very short period of time, which in my opinion makes it look like it's going to be an incredible ad-clear weapon. We'll have to see exactly how much damage this thing can put out. But of course, it's more than just incoming exotic weapons that are going to be making their way through the Witch Queen. We've got a suite of over 50 new weapons that are going to be dropping as well. Of course, containing incoming raid gear, vanguard gear, other vendor gear, and even more. As for exotic armor, each of the main classes is getting 2 new exotic armor pieces, 1 stasis and 1 for the light subclasses. So 6 new bits of exotic armor in total. And some of them we've actually already seen, like for the Titans, you're getting the Hoarfrost Z exotic chest piece. This is going to allow a stasis wall to replace your Titan barricade. For Warlocks, you're getting the gloves Osiomancy, which gives you an additional cold snap with enhanced seeking. For Hunters, you've got the Blight Ranger, where reflected projectiles and your Arc Staff Super are going to deal increased damage to your enemies. But in the ViDoc, we actually get a look at a brand new Warlock pair of exotic boots that basically function as an empowering rift, but with the Devour ability from Bottom Tree Voidlock. This means you can use your empowering rift on a Void subclass, getting all of the range and damage buffs that provides, while also healing yourself off of every kill. Definitely not a bad choice at all. And speaking of Void, from here on out, the ViDoc goes Void 3.0, giving us an incredible look at the revamped subclass that we're going to be getting with the Witch Queen. The system itself is of course going to be very similar to the way aspects and fragments work with the stasis subclass, complete with void abilities, aspects, and fragments that you'll be able to use to further customize your character. And we even get to see what a few of those fragments and void warlock aspects are going to be. First, we've got Echo of Exchange, where melee final blows will grant grenade energy. Then Echo of Remnants, your lingering grenade effects, Vortex Grenade, Void Wall, or Void Spike, and Axion Bolts will have increased duration. Then the final fragment we got to see was Echo of Reprisal, where final blows when surrounded by combatants will grant you super energy. Then we get to see a few of the Void Warlock aspects we'll be going for. First up is Chaos Accelerant, where you can hold your grenade key to overcharge your grenade, making it deadlier and more effective. And this is going to have different effects based on which type of grenade you're going to be using. For Vortex Grenades, it increases the size and linger duration of the Vortex. For Axion Bolt, it creates an additional Seeker. For Scatter Grenades, it basically grants its sub-munitions tracking. And for Magnetic Grenades, it releases a short-range Void Blast. Then, we get one that they even talk about here in the ViDoc, Child of the Old Gods. With this, you can cast your Rift to create a Void Soul. When you damage a target with a weapon, your Void Soul flies to them and drains them, doing damage and weakening them. When a target's being drained, you are granted grenade and melee energy if you're running Healing Rift, or health if you're running Empowering Rift. Defeating a target who is being drained by your Void Soul will also grant you class ability energy back, so you can drop another Rift as soon as possible. Child of the Old Gods sounds busted, and I cannot wait to try that thing out when this drops in a few weeks. And as you might have picked up there from the Chaos Accelerant Warlock aspect, there's going to be certain terms tied to Void right now that are going to become class agnostic moving forward with Void 3.0. Everyone's going to gain access to, say, a suppression grenade that they can choose. Which, if that's something that you can mix with the Warlock Scatter Grenade or Axion Bolts, might be a little silly in both PvE and PvP. Out of that, we learned about some new Titan abilities too, in particular Bastion, which will be a modification for Titan Barricades where you slam your shield down into the ground, and then not only do you get that rally barricade, but you also get an overshield over you and all of your teammates. For Hunters, we only get a quick shot of it, but it looks like you get kind of a Shatter Dive sort of ability for Void that will also turn you and your allies invisible. So that's definitely something that's really interesting to see. Ultimately, Void 3.0 looks like it's going to be an incredible revamp of the Void subclass as it is right now. And Bungie finishes this off by promising that both a Solar and an Arc 3.0 version are going to be in the works basically over the course of the next year, and we will see similar revamps for those subclasses sometime in the near future. I cannot wait to see where all of this goes. But ultimately, that's the biggest bits of news that I could glean from this ViDoc, Light in the Darkness. There's so much stuff to talk about. There's even more information in the video itself. So again, I definitely recommend that you go and watch the full 13-minute ViDoc over on Bungie's YouTube channel. I'll have a link to it down in the description box below. But that's the news. Those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. How do you feel about all this stuff? What is your favorite bit of news from this Bungie ViDoc? Be sure to let me know. And if you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.